philosophy. Today we are going to have the second lecture in this series. We have with us Professor Pramod Kumar, who will be addressing all the lectures in this series. So the last lecture on Bacon, we had a very nice session wherein Professor Das touched on the point that for Bacon, the mind should be free from all sort of idolas or religions or prejudices before making a start for a free inquiry or a free start, or for making an inquiry. One has to be free in the mindset to start with. With that sort of mind, one can arrive at a form that Bacon tried to arrive at, and the method that Bacon selected was the inductive method, and Professor Das tried to see this method and also discussed on dogma and the possibility of knowledge through this inductive method. And the technique is the inductive method, and the point to be reached at, the object to be reached at, is the form. And he also made it very much clear that the form that Bacon aimed at was not the form that Plato talked of, and he somehow put forth that the form of Bacon somehow hangs between the universals of Aristotle and the modern scientific and the scientific laws. So that's how we had a very nice session last week. So now I request Professor Das to take on another thinker, Descartes, whom we take as the founder of modern Western philosophy, to discuss the various issues connected with this philosopher who set the trend for rationalism. Now let us move to Professor Das for the lecture. Over to Professor Das.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, audible, but bit low. Voice is bit low.
Now audible?
Okay, done.
Respected Dr. Rao, very esteemed participants of this session. Today we shall discuss a very beautiful topic, that is doubt and certainty. This is the starting point of Descartes' philosophy. Hello, yes. This is the starting point of Descartes' philosophy. Descartes started from doubt and reached at certainty. Now the question is, does philosophy start from doubt, or Descartes started from doubt? Whether this is a personal method or a personal choice of an individual, of a philosopher, to start from doubt, or doubting is a general phenomenon, or doubting is a philosophical attitude. That is the question. So there are two possibilities. One is experience and the other is rational thinking. We conclude about the empirical world by giving our statements based upon experience. And the other way is that we try to speculate. We try to speak something by applying logic. In experience, there is no logic. We directly perceive something and we just say what we perceived. But without perception, without the help of the empirical world, when we speak something, there we use the help of a logic. That means by applying logic, we can speak of volumes sitting in a closed room. We don't need any empirical world. That is a way of philosophizing. That is a way of thinking. That is a way of reflecting about the empirical world. Many philosophers, they rely on this attitude and this possibility of a human being. But those who do not believe in, do not rely on human thinking, because that is not only logical but also speculative by nature, they believe in direct experience. Whatever is experienced, that is true, that can be accepted, that is scientific, because it has evidence. So we cannot believe in anything unscientific. But both the philosophers give their arguments, supporting their standpoints, supporting their views. Suppose Bacon. Bacon believes in experience. Descartes believes in logical thinking. Both Bacon and Descartes, they give their arguments supporting their views. Bacon says that human inquiry, human knowledge, or any epistemology that starts from experience. Without experience, whatever we speak, that is only speculation. That is the mental construction. We think something and we speak. So it has no relation and it is not relevant to the empirical world. And anything that is not related to the empirical world, that cannot be accepted as knowledge, number one. And that knowledge cannot be powerful. So knowledge is power means that knowledge should be scientific. That knowledge should be empirically evident. If our knowledge is not empirically evident, if our knowledge is not scientific, then that knowledge cannot be treated as a power. So knowledge is power means it must be scientific. It must start with experience. It must be pragmatic. It must be practical. It must be empirically evident. Suppose what is the natural tendency of a human being? The natural tendency is experience, not thinking. Thinking starts when mind becomes mature. But experience starts from the childhood. When a child communicates, that child communicates through experience because he or she has no A mature mind who can rationalize, who can think, who can speculate, who can analyze, who can make deductions. So ostensibly, a child communicates. And that is the natural tendency of man. And in our practical life, we depend upon our experience, direct experience. Philosophical entertainment, philosophical speculation, that happens to us when we deliberately decide to speculate. That is an entertainment. We do that. Sometimes we do that. That is an extra affair. That is an additional affair. We live with experience. Our knowledge starts with experience. Therefore, any human inquiry that should be rooted in our experience, our encounter. We always encounter with the empirical world, the outer world, the external world, and that is pragmatic. That everybody should believe. Number one. Number two, that experience should be free from dogma, because a biased mind cannot perceive with all perfection. So here comes the claim of the rationalist philosophers. If you think of a dogma-free mind for clear perception, so which is first? If we are talking about ideologies, if we are talking about dogmas, if we are talking about freedom from any type of epistemological errors, if we are talking about a free mind, then whether your experience is first or your mind is first, because a biased mind cannot perceive anything clearly. So for any perception, we should have a sound mind, a perfect mind, a free mind. Otherwise, our perception cannot be perfect. So here comes the point that mind is first. We should have a proper mind. We should have a free mind. We should have a unbiased mind, unprejudiced mind, who can have a perfect claim, a logical claim of the knowledge. So a unbiased mind can have a proper knowledge claim. So this is the debate between implicit philosophers and rationalist philosophers. Which is first? It appears to be very evident that yes, experience is first, because we start from experience. We deal with experience. But same implicit philosophers say that perception is not possible without a free mind. That means that means perception presupposes a free mind. So Descartes tried his own way of looking into the empirical world, and his method is something different. Descartes' point is that in experience, in induction, we have a problem. The problem is the inductive leap. That means our enumeration is not complete. When we depend upon experience, we are bound to follow the inductive procedure, the inductive way, and in every inductive procedure, there is a leap, there is an inductive leap, there is a gap. And by crossing that gap, by overtaking that gap, or by ignoring that gap, we give a general conclusion. Ram is mortal, Hari is mortal, Gopal is mortal, many people are mortal, then ... there is a gap, then we say that all men are mortal. This crow is black, that crow is black, that crow is black, that crow is black, 1,000 crows are black, 1 crore crows are black, then we say that all crows are black. But 1 crore is not the complete crow, complete number. So there remains a gap between the observed and unobserved, but we give a general conclusion on the basis of grounds of induction, law of causation, and a law of uniformity of nature. That nature behaves uniformly and every event must have a cause. So on the basis of these two grounds, we dare to jump from the observed to the unobserved, and we give a general conclusion. But the very science also declares that this generalization is probable. It is not certain. That means any empirical inquiry or epistemology that cannot give us a very conclusive knowledge claim, that cannot speak about certainty, because there is a gap. The entire science is based upon this type of
Therefore,
inquiry. Therefore, science admits its limit. That my conclusion is subject to revision. It is probable. But Descartes speaks that our enumeration should be complete. There should not be any gap between the observed and unobserved. Our observation should be so complete that no single instance can be left out. If a single instance is left out, then conclusion is bound to be probable. So in order to have a conclusive conclusion, conclusive statement, our enumeration, our observation should be complete. So no inductive leap can justify the certainty. If we admit the gap, then we have to admit the probability. With inductive leap, we can never speak of the certainty. So how can it be possible? How can our observation will be complete? Therefore, Descartes said, let us start from Descartes said that let us start in a different way. That we should follow a method that we shall simplify everything. We shall not start with complexity. We shall try to divide everything to the simplest, and from that simplest form, we shall go to the complexity. The problem is that philosophers try to philosophers try to start from complexity and they reach at the simplest. But the other way is that we can start from the simplest form and we can reach at the complexity. So how can we reach at the simplest form? How can that simplest form be understood? So let us be silent. Let us be silent, be calm, forget everything. Forget all established doctrines. Forget all theories. Forget all philosophy that has been developed by the great philosophers. Great philosophy of great philosophers. Forget everything. Start de novo. Start newly. So be silent. So here Descartes follows a method that is called doubt. As we know, there is a theory of falsification, that we can falsify something in the indirect way. And in symbolic logic also, there is an indirect truth table method that let us accept it as false. Then if we shall find any contradiction, then the expression will be proved as valid. So this is the indirect way of proving an expression as valid or invalid. Similarly, here doubt is a method to reach at the certainty. This doubt is not a psychological doubt. This doubt is not a skeptical doubt. This doubt is not a agnostic doubt. This doubt is a logical doubt. What is a psychological doubt? Psychological doubt is a disease. Many people, they have that tendency that naturally they doubt everything. This is not a mental disorder. This doubt does not originate from mental disorder. This is not a psychological phenomena. That psychological phenomena means my doubt is not a free doubt. I doubt being conditioned by my psychophysical, it is conditioned by my mind, or it is due to some defects of my body. It is not a disease. It is not a psychological fact. It is not a psychological tendency. Many people have that tendency. They simply doubt everything. Husband doubts wife, wife doubts husband. This is not a such type of a doubt. Similarly, this is not a skeptical doubt that I doubt whimsically. I doubt everything because I am free to doubt, so I can doubt everything. No. Similarly, it is not a doubt in the sense of agnosticism, that because I do not know, therefore I doubt. No. Because I do not know, therefore I doubt. No. Doubt is not the consequence of not knowing. Doubt is not the consequence of my psychological defects. Doubt is not the consequence of my free choice. That I can doubt, therefore I doubt. No. Here the doubt is a logical doubt. Here the doubt is a free doubt. Here the doubt is a deliberate doubt. Conscious doubt. I doubt and I know that I am doubting. So therefore it is a method. If my doubt takes place in my behavior, psychological behavior, automatically, by nature, then this is not a free doubt. That means I am conditioned by this disease. No. I deliberately decide to doubt. Let us start from doubt. Let us doubt everything. Why? Because my intention is to start from the simplicity, to start from the simplest reality. I don't be confused with complexity. I don't try to speculate about the complex world. I try to divide the entire world into the simplest facts. That simplest fact which is free from any types of doubt. I doubt to find something which cannot be doubted. That means that is the honesty of rationality. That is the honesty of rationality, to doubt the position of my rationality. If I am rational, whether I am dogmatically rational, whether I am rationally rational, therefore I start from doubting everything. So I know that I doubt. I don't believe any preoccupied doctrines, any preoccupied thoughts, pre-established philosophy, any view, any ism, any system, great philosophy of great philosophers. I am not interested at all. I am free to doubt everything, and I doubt only because to get the certainty, and I know that I doubt. So my doubt is a conscious doubt. My doubt is a rational doubt. My doubt is a logical doubt. It is not merely epistemological. It is not merely psychological. It is not merely skeptical. It is logical. It is rooted on my freedom, free choice. I am very much conscious that I am doubting. Let us have this agenda in philosophy. This is also a method of a philosophical inquiry, philosophical activity. Let us start from doubt. Many philosophers, they start philosophy from different methods. Analytic philosophers start from analyzing everything. Linguistic philosophers, they start from analyzing the language, the concepts, the meaning of the concepts. The metaphysicians, those who believe in metaphysics, they start with definitions. Yes, substance is defined by this way, and they take that definition as the axiom, and from that they construct their system. They assume the first premise, they believe in the first assumption. They declare that this is the definition of a God, or this is the definition of a Brahman, or this is the definition of substance. So, if we speak of rationality in the true sense, we should not accept anything by definition, though it is mathematical. Descartes is a great mathematician, but he also doubts in the scientific laws, in the scientific way of thinking, that we should not start with any definition. This is the definition, then we shall deduce everything from that definition. No. How can you define this by your own choice? This is your assumption. This is not philosophy. So philosophy should be clear and distinct. If any philosophy is not clear, if any philosophy is not distinct, if any philosophy is not rooted in our intuition, if any philosophy is not simple, lucid, that is not a philosophy at all. That exercise is not a philosophical exercise. So we should have a very clear idea we should have a clear understanding about our minds, about the limit of our minds, and about the possibility of our minds. If we are really confused, then we should start from doubting everything. It is very natural. If we are confused, then we should start from doubting. If we are clear, there is no question of doubt. But man is always confused. Man is thrown into this world of uncertainty. Therefore, confusion, despair, frustration, these are natural. And because a man cannot experience the totality, man cannot experience the total phenomena, therefore there is a leap, there is an inductive leap. Inductive leap is there because that shows the limitation of human experience. It shows the limitation. Why there is a gap, why there is a leap? The leap is there because that leap suggests, that leap proves that human mind is so limited that it cannot have complete experience, complete enumeration, complete observation. So if this is the position, there must be a confusion. And if there is confusion, let us start from doubting everything. Let us doubt everything because there is confusion. Confusion is natural because our enumeration is not complete. Because our conclusion is probable. We have a probable conclusion. So because of this leap, because of this gap, because of this limit of experience, we are confused. And if we are confused, let us start from doubting everything. But one should be conscious of his doubt. That I am not doubting for the sake of doubt. I don't start from doubting and end with doubting. I am doubting to reach at certainty. Suppose we are going to a doctor. Doctor doubts. Doctor doubts our disease. Therefore, he advises for different type of tests. And after the test, the doctor becomes clear that this is the disease. Then he prescribes medicine. That means doubt is very positive. Doubt is a method to reach at the certainty. If a doctor will prescribe medicine without doubting the disease and without going through the proper treatment, diagnosis, then the prescription is not valid. That is not the way. So whenever we are admitted in the hospital, we go through different types of tests because there is doubt. In police, when police arrest the criminals, many times they arrest on doubt. That is proved in the court that no, there is no evidence. Therefore, they are free. They are free from the crimes. So the first inquiry starts from the doubt. Let us doubt that this person is a criminal. Then after the trial in the court, the person is free from the crime. So every time, this is the rational attitude that we should start with the simplest form, that everything can be doubted. So number one is that we shall not accept anything which is not understood by us. Number one. We should not accept anything which is not understood by us. Example, we should not accept the general proposition that all men are mortal if it is not understood by us. We should not accept anything which is not clearly understood by us. Clearly, distinctly, it's not understood by us. We understand Ram is immortal. There is no doubt. There is no problem. We understand Hari is immortal. We understand Gopal is immortal. But we don't understand that all men are mortal. This is the problem of induction. And this problematic conclusion becomes the premise in the deduction. All men are mortal. Ram is a man. Ram is immortal. By this way we argue. In our practical life, we communicate with each other by this way. It is not that only logic students, only philosophy students use this type of argument. In common parlance, we use this type of methodology. All men are mortal. Ram is a man. Ram is immortal. The question is, where from you know that all men are mortal? Now we came to know by the process of induction. Is that process complete? Is that process correct? Is that conclusion correct? No. Then if that conclusion is not correct, how can you use it as the premise in the deductive method? So by this way, we cannot have a right conclusion in deduction also. Therefore, in deduction we speak if and then. If all men are mortal, if, we don't know whether all men are mortal or not. If all men are mortal, if Ram is a man, then Ram is mortal. Then there is no problem. If we say all men are mortal, Ram is a man, Ram is mortal, there is a problem. The problem is that where from you know that all men are mortal? So again we are going to experience. And there we fail to establish, to justify the premise. But if we shall speak it in a implicative way, in a mathematical way, in a logical way, if so and so, if P implies Q and P, then Q, then not right. Then there is no problem in this methodology. If all men are mortal, suppose we can say, if all men are dogs, there is no problem. If because we are not speaking about fact, we are speaking of if. If all men are dogs, if Ram is a man, then Ram is dog. There is no problem. Rama will not feel sorry for it. If all men are dogs. So by this way, we can give a satisfactory answer to deductive method by applying if and then. Otherwise, simply we say all men are mortal, Ram is a man, Ram is mortal, this will be questioned. Where from you know that all men are mortal? Now I came to know from the inductive way. Now is it correct? No. Then how can you start from all men are mortal? Therefore, in symbolic logic is helpful for us because it is not concerned with any type of language. It is concerned with a symbol. If, then not that if all men are mortal. If P implies Q, what for P stands, what for Q stands, we don't know. If P implies Q and P, then Q. So by that way, we can deduce the conclusion mathematically, logically, and correctly. So the point is, can we apply this mathematical principle, this logical principle in experience? Many students will ask the question, sir, this is possible in mathematics. This is possible in logic. So it is descent in mathematical class. This is descent in logic class. But is it relevant to experience? Descartes said yes. This is the contribution of Descartes. Descartes said yes. The mathematical method, the logical method, what we speak in logic, that is relevant with our experience. Therefore, Descartes becomes the father of modern philosophy. Descartes says that we don't ignore the empirical world. We don't ignore the material world. And see, at the same time, we don't ignore the metaphysical world. Both the metaphysical world and the physical world are real. Physical world is there and metaphysical world is there, and they are independent to each other. We shall discuss that in the next session. Descartes believes in matter and mind. Descartes believes in the subsidiary substance and absolute substance. Descartes does not ignore the absolute substance. Descartes does not ignore metaphysics, and at the same time, Descartes does not ignore the physical world. Physical world is there. This body is very much real, and the mind is very much. Descartes is a double dualist. Body and mind, here there is duality, and body and mind, that is empirical, and with that empirical reality, there is a trans-empirical reality. So this is another dualism. Dualism between body and mind, and dualism between empirical and trans-empirical, or physical and metaphysical. Descartes accepts both. Therefore, Descartes is a complete philosopher. But the question is, generally we believe that if we completely depend upon mathematics, if we completely depend upon logic, then our philosophy becomes formal. It becomes a formal like deduction. As I said, if all men are dog, Ram is a man, Ram is dog. This argument is formal. It is not concerned with the factual truths. It is concerned with the logical truths. Yes, logically, this is true, this is valid, this argument is valid, irrespective of the truth and falsity of the propositions, the statements. But Descartes does not accept this. Descartes says, my mathematical principle, my logical principle will help in describing, in explaining the empirical world, the world of experience. Not only that, by this mathematics, by this logic, I can also speak of metaphysics. So both physics and metaphysics can be discussed through logic and mathematics. This is the contribution of Descartes. So how it is rooted in experience, how it is relevant with experience. Therefore, Descartes says, we do not reject empirical world. We do not reject empirical world. Let us doubt the empirical world. And that is the minimum courtesy of philosophical inquiry. That is the honesty in philosophical inquiry. Let us doubt, let us be gentle. Don't be biased by assuming anything, whatever you see and whatever you like, whatever you think, whatever you speculate. Don't do that. You exercise your free minds. So let us accept this empirical world and let us doubt this empirical world. This empirical world, the very gentleman, the gentle empirical world, you sit before me and I doubt you. I doubt you till I doubt you. This is a very honest approach, very honest approach. Very honest approach to philosophical understanding, philosophical activity. So the very doubting of the empirical world indicates the relevance of mathematics and logic to the empirical world. That I deal with this empirical world and I doubt this empirical world. That means I am not out of this empirical world. I am not doing mathematics and logic in heaven, in a metaphysical world, in a very closed chamber. No, I very much accept this empirical world, but I am doubting everything. I am doubting this empirical world. I am doubting all established scientific laws, including law of gravitation, including all possible scientific laws. Even I am doubting mathematical definitions, mathematical equations. Everything can, let us doubt. Let us have an agenda that we shall doubt everything for having a very honest approach to philosophy. What is the purpose? The purpose is, in the process of doubting everything, I come to the conclusion by myself that there is something which cannot be doubted. This is logical. This is mathematical. But doubting is an empirical activity. I am doubting means I am doubting something. When Descartes doubts, Descartes does not doubt as a madman. Descartes is doubting consciously. Descartes' doubt is a conscious doubt, and Descartes' doubt is objective. Objective means Descartes doubts the external object, that this my dreams are doubtful, the external world is doubtful, all established mathematical principles can be doubted. That means there is an object of my doubt. My doubt is not purely subjective. Whenever I am doubting the empirical world. So this is the connection. This is the connection. This is the relevance of the relation between mathematics and the empirical world. When I am doubting, I am exercising that doubting attitude with the empirical world. And by doubting everything, I came to the conclusion that there is one thing which cannot be doubted. That means, encountering with the empirical world, there comes a point when I return to myself, that my doubting cannot be doubted. That it is certain that I doubt. I am conscious that I am doubt. And at the last, I justify that my doubt, that I am doubting, this act of doubting cannot be doubted. And this is the simplest reality. This is not a complex reality. Here there is no philosophy at all. Descartes is free from all types of philosophy, by others and by himself. Descartes does not want to become a philosopher. At the first stage, Descartes becomes a common man. Descartes becomes a layman. Descartes becomes a very simplest person. That be very simple, be very honest. First honesty is that let us doubt everything. And the second honesty is that by doubting everything outer, by doubting everything in the empirical world, I return to myself and I am trying to doubt myself. If I doubt everything, if I doubt my teacher, if I doubt my scriptures, if I doubt doubt the empirical world, then I am trying to doubt myself too. But here I fail. Descartes was trying to fail somewhere. Descartes was trying to stop somewhere where he cannot doubt. And Descartes failed to doubt himself. Himself means Descartes failed to doubt the very act of doubting. This is the simplest reality. This is the clear, and this is very much clear and distinct. This is the self-evident truth. Descartes was trying to establish the truth which is established by itself. Satyam abadhitam, that is spoken in Indian context. Satyam abadhitam, that means truth is non-contradictory by nature. Truth is that which cannot be contradicted by any other principle. Satyam abadhitam. Similarly, self-evident truth is that the truth which is proved by itself. The truth that is evident by itself. No other truth can justify it, can prove it. Descartes was searching truth, that clear and distinct truth. And that is the self, that I can doubt if the very act of doubting is doubted, then all doubts are cancelled. If the very act of doubting is doubted, then all doubts or all objects of doubts or all contents of doubts are cancelled, are rejected. Therefore, we cannot cancel, we cannot reject the very possibility of doubting, that I am doubting. I am doubting, therefore everything is doubted. I am doubting, therefore everything is doubted. This is the simplest reality. This is the self-evident truth. So out of the whole physical realities and metaphysical speculations, the vast world is there. The volumes of metaphysical speculations are there. But this is the simplest form of, this is the simplest reality that we have to start with. So this is not a philosophy. This is a methodology. This is a methodology of human inquiry. This should be the human inquiry. So this inquiry is different from Bacon's inquiry, who wanted to start his inquiry from experience. But Descartes was trying to see the status of human mind. Descartes started to have human inquiry from the simplest truth, from the clear and distinct truth, and that is relevant with this empirical world, that is connected with this empirical world. I am doubting means I am doubting something, something objective. There is an object which I doubt. That means it is related with the empirical world. So the empirical world is there, which I doubt. From this is an experience. This is an experience. So this is a logical experience. That means we apply the logical method here in the course of our experience. I am doubting everything, but in course of doubting, I find myself in a position that I can't doubt something. Somewhere I fail, and that is the very act of doubting. That is the very act of doubting. So the very act of doubting cannot be doubted. This is the base. This is the self-evident assertion of Descartes, that this is clear and distinct, because our intuition gives us that knowledge, that from my intuition, not from any empirical world, I came to know that my doubt cannot be doubted. And this is very much logical. No, logical means it is universal. Logical means it is unconditional. Logical means it is possible in all possible worlds, in physical world and in metaphysical world. My doubt, I am doubting, that cannot be doubted. This is a logical. This is very much logical, and this is also empirical, because doubting is concerned with the empirical reality. I am doubting means I am doubting the object. So this is empirical. But I cannot doubt that I doubt. This is logical. So so Descartes believes that rationality should not be based upon only analysis. This is a wrong method. Rationality should not be based upon only analysis. Philosophy should start with analysis, but should end with synthesis. So Descartes believes in both analysis and synthesis. Yes, you do analysis, but mere analysis is mechanical. If you are simply analyzing the concepts, or you are analyzing the facts, then you are then this philosophy is very much mechanical. It yields nothing. It results in nothing. So philosophy should start with analysis, but it should end with synthesis. This is the contribution of Descartes. So both analysis and synthesis are there in Descartes' philosophy. So by analyzing, Descartes reached at the clear and distinct knowledge, the truths that my doubt cannot be doubted. This is the self-evident truth. And this truth is empirical as content and logical by methodology. So the logical form is relevant with the empirical fact. This is the contribution. That means mathematics is not only formal. Logic is not only formal. If P implies Q, then P. If P implies Q and P, then Q. No, it is not that way. The very logical methodology is relevant with the empirical world. That is relevant with our practical life. And by applying this method, universal method of doubt, Descartes proves both physics and metaphysics. Descartes' philosophy is not only formal philosophy. It's the philosophy of the empirical world. It's the philosophy of the metaphysical world. It's the philosophy of both physics and metaphysics. Therefore, Descartes is a dualist. Descartes accepts the physical world as physical and the metaphysical world as metaphysical. and both these worlds have two different categories, and they are independent to each other. Physical and mental are independent, and the physics and metaphysics are independent because they are there according to their own principles, laws. So the point is, from this self-evident truth, I had said that Descartes believes in simplest truth, and from that simplest truth, Descartes moves to the complexity. Now, we had rejected the complex world. We are free from the complex world. Now, the complex world is not a burden for us. It is not a liability for us. It is very easy to start philosophy start philosophy from the simplest truths, that I am not confused with this complex world. So from that simplest truth, we can deduce, we can move to the complexity. So the simplest truth is that I am doubting. This cannot be rejected. This cannot be challenged by any possible world, by any human being in any possible world. This cannot be challenged. Therefore, it is self-evident. Therefore, it is clear and distinct. Therefore, it is intuitive by nature, because that comes from our intuition. So now, from this simplest truth, this is all about doubt. But from that, the process of doubt, Descartes reached at the certainty that doubt cannot be doubted. The very act of doubting cannot be doubted. This is certainty. The certainty is that my act of doubting cannot be doubted. That I am doubting, that cannot be doubted. If it is doubted, then all the contents of my doubt are cancelled. They become meaningless. Therefore, in the court of law, if the criminal or the person who has given complaint, if anybody of them is proved to be mad, then the case will not stand. That means nothing stands with a mad person. So if my doubt is doubted, then I doubt nothing. So I doubt means at least it is certain. At least it is certain that I am doubting, that I am sensible, that I am conscious, that I am aware of my doubt. So with this, now Descartes moves to different types of certainties by the process of deduction. So deduction is another method. So from this self-evident truth that I am doubting, there comes I am thinking. Then I am thinking means I exist. I exist means then Descartes will say God exists. God exists, then world exists. So from the simplest truth, by the process of analysis, Descartes tries to reach at the synthesis of the entire complex world. That how that is deducible. So from that self-evident truth, Descartes moves to both physics and metaphysics. That the physical world is deducible from this self-evident truth, and the metaphysical world, metaphysical reality is also deducible from this self-evident truth. From this self-evident fact that I am doubting, myself is proved, God is proved, and this empirical world is proved. So self, God, and world, all these realities are proved from the simplest form, that is the form of reality, that is, I am doubting or I am thinking. I am thinking, I exist, therefore God exists, therefore world exists. By this way, Descartes accepted everything which was doubted by himself. So Descartes doubted everything in in the beginning, and he accepted everything in in the last. That means when we are concluding with certainty, their doubt becomes a methodology. So Descartes' doubt is not a skeptical doubt. Descartes' doubt is not a psychological doubt. Descartes' doubt is logical doubt. It is a methodology, because by this method, as we do the theory of falsification, or we in indirect truth table, we take the assumption that something is let us accept that something is false. By that way, we indirectly prove the validity of an expression. Similarly, by doubting everything, we can prove the certainty of everything by the process of mathematical and logical principles. So the contribution of Descartes is that Descartes does not accept mathematics and logic as formal, purely formal. No. If mathematics and logic are not useful for the explanation of the empirical world, then that is not mathematics. That is pure mathematics or pure logic. That speaks nothing. Tautology and contradictions, they speak nothing. Similarly, pure mathematics, pure logic, if P implies Q, then and P, then it speaks nothing. So that mathematics, that logic is not useful. We should have that. We should have a connection between mathematics and the empirical world, logic and the empirical world. If we are able to prove both physics and metaphysics through mathematics and logic, then that mathematics and logic is really the rational instrument, rational tool. Otherwise, that is not pragmatic. That is formal. So this is the contribution of Descartes. In the next session, we shall discuss about self and God. So today I am not discussing self and God, but I am just saying that from this self-evident truth that I am doubting, that I am thinking, Descartes will prove, if I think, I must exist to think. If I do not exist, how can I think? Then if I exist, my existence should be backed by a cause. And who can be the cause? So the infinite, something infinite can be the cause, because the cause must be greater than the effect. So by this logic, we shall prove that God exists. If God exists, God is good. God is good. Therefore, He has a very beautiful creation. So we shall discuss all these things in the next session. So today we discussed about the methodology of philosophy in comparison with the methodology of Bacon, the methodology of experience and the methodology of rational thinking. Which is fast? Experience is fast or thinking is fast? So Descartes and Bacon, and also we shall discuss Locke, Berkeley, and Hume. They will advocate the merit of empiricism, and Descartes, Spinoza, and Leibniz, they will advocate about the merit of rational thinking. And Immanuel Kant will criticize both and will accept both. So this is our course of discussion from Bacon to Kant. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Das, for your lecture. four to five important things that you said. Well, it seems as if everything starts with experience, but without the mind, how can there be experience then? So this is a very good assertion to make. So mind, you have to first of all give the first place in order that any experience is possible. Number one, and seeing the state of affairs that there is no certainty in philosophy like the certainty that we find in mathematics, geometry, or logic. So Descartes was all after certainty. And the method, as you suggested, that is the method of doubt, and this doubt is not a psychological doubt, it is a logical doubt. And one important thing that you said, this doubt should not end up with another doubt. Rather, this doubt should lead to a sort of certainty. And in the process, you tried to say uh, two to three important things that one should not accept anything as true unless until there is a knowledge concerning it or there is a strong belief concerning it. Then you try to say that we should if we come across a problem or a sort of complicated sort of things, we need to make that complicated thing simple and then try to understand the simple thing, so that in the process we try to understand, we understand the complicated thing or the complex thing. The third thing, he said, you should start with simple things to build up a system. So that is another merit that we see in Descartes. And you tried to say even that one should have an enumeration as close as possible, as many as possible, so that we can come close to a concept or a thinking process can be a complete one. So, well, these are the things that you said, but and from this you try to arrive at from doubting to a doubter, and then you try to establish a proposition of certainty that I think, therefore I am. So this transition is beautiful, but very good questions has been two important questions, very beautiful questions. I see in the chat box by Smruti Rekha Nayak, a PG student of Ravenshaw University, very intelligent questions, very good questions. So she says, from this transition, as you say, from the doubt to the doubting substance. So she had a question whether the doubter exists really. She had a question: do I really exist? Because why she says so? Because from the mental structure, the thought process, from the thinking itself, there is a thinker. So when we talk of a thinker, we are bringing both the mind and the body together, because mind, we cannot talk of a mind without a body. So here the body is getting connected. The problem with her is, well, from thought, from thinking to a sort of thought, well, that part she is happy. But does it really establish a thinking substance where both mind and body are the second question, the second part of the question, the wherein mind and body are totally connected, a unified whole. Okay, a sort of consciousness flowing in the body through the mind. So that's another problem that she has in mind. And then when you talk of the metaphysical, you're talking about Descartes started with doubt, and he established himself as a doubting substance. Then he made everything flow like water, and even talked of God. And she says that's somehow again missing the point somewhere, and that may be taken as a sort of very serious criticism against Descartes. So he has crossed the limits of the self, okay, the certainty of the self, to something uncertain to prove God. So there is another problem that he says. And the third one, well, I could see another question. Can we, well, first of all, you carry on these two, then we'll come to the third one. Yes. Over to Professor Das.
Thank you, Smriti Rekha. This is a very beautiful question asked by you. You see, um, if you start from thinking, then you take thinking as the empirical reality. Descartes is not taking thinking without a thinker. Descartes is the way, the point is that Descartes is proving the existence of a thinker by a logical process in order to convince the public. Public means that the other. Suppose Smriti Rekha is the other. I am Descartes. I am convincing Smriti Rekha through logical process that thinker exists. This is a logical process to prove the thinker from the thinking. But the moment Descartes doubts, I told, and Descartes is also saying that he is conscious that he is doubting. But in the logical way, the logical methodology, he is trying to convince to establish the thinker. That means the thinker, unless and until the thinker is there, no thinking is possible. This is the truth where we have to reach at. But in order to prove it, we are going through the method of a doubt. We are going in the way of a logical explanation. But what happens in case of empiricist philosophers, as you asked, you are advocating the empiricist philosophers, they think that thinking is discrete, thinking is empirical, and there is no guarantee that there is a thinker as a substance. This is the problem with the empiricist philosophers. But the rationalist philosophers claim that when thinking is there, the thinker is conscious that he is thinking. So it is not necessary to prove the thinker from thinking. It is self-proved. It is self-evident. There is nothing to prove. Because without the thinker, no thinking is possible. Suppose you are asking about thinking, you are questioning about thinking, who are you? Who are you to ask about thinking? You just go on thinking. You can't ask any question. You are asking means something is there like you who is witnessing, who is aware of asking question, who is aware of the course of your thinking. So that cannot be doubted. That you are asking this question, that suppose Smriti Rekha is asking question, but Smriti Rekha is no more. Is it possible? Then I am answering to whom? I am answering to Smriti Rekha means Smriti Rekha is a participant. She is very much present in this webinar and she is listening this discussion very carefully and she is understanding and she is asking the question. That cannot be ignored. Without that, no question is possible, no thinking is possible. Descartes said, no doubting is possible. But empiricist philosophers say, also in Indian philosophy, Buddha said that there is only the series of thinking, only perceptions are there, no mind. Buddha does not believe in a mind. Buddha does not believe in self. Okay? But many critics also ask questions, if there is no self, who is getting nirvana? Who is understanding that there is no self? So these questions will come. So Descartes tries to prove not only the self, but also God exists. We shall discuss that in the next session. But today your question is that only thinking is there. There is no guarantee there must be a thinker. So Descartes jumped from thinking to thinker without having any logic. No, Descartes very much aware the fact that he is the person behind his thinking or behind his doubt who is doubting. He is very much conscious. Therefore, I said it is a conscious doubt. It is a logical doubt. And no logic is possible. No logic is understood by a person. Logic is understood by a person. Philosophy is understood by a person. A person is there who is asking the question, who is making all types of assumptions. So my point is, this is practical. This is pragmatic. So we can't speak of thinking in an abstract way. That is there in empiricism, empiricist philosophers. They claim that. They claim because they claim on the ground of experience that because we do not perceive the self, because we do not perceive the person who thinks, we are only acquainted with thinking process. Therefore, we shall say to be is to be perceived. This is their method. But the method of a rationalist is that any perception, any conception that is possible only through the agent. This is the difference of opinion between empiricist philosopher and rationalist philosopher. Your question is based upon empiricism, and the criticism will be there because therefore there are two parties: rationalism and empiricism. Rationalist and empiricist. Rationalists will criticize empiricists philosophers, and empiricist philosophers will criticize rationalist philosophers. But that has been reconciled by Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant says, don't quarrel. You both are necessary. Empiricism is necessary, thinking is necessary, and also the thinker is necessary. Both are necessary. Rational faculty is necessary, and the empirical faculty is also necessary. He has synthesized both. Thank you.
Well, sir, from the response, and I should thank Smriti. Very nicely framed questions. What I could see from her questions that Descartes' entire methodology involves a circular fallacy. It involves. He says, I'm carrying forward a method of doubt. Who will doubt? Doubt cannot be in the air. It cannot float. So, the very methodology of doubt is not possible without a doubter. So, why do you go long that I am doubting, therefore I should exist as a doubting substance? Why do you go so long? Very nicely, I should praise Smriti, because the very method of doubting, who will doubt? The mind cannot doubt itself. The body system has to be there. So, somehow the existentialist will attack on this. So, existence has to be there before any doubting is possible. Especially, I'm talking about the conscious being. So, somehow, thinking, when you talk of thinking, there need to be a sort of existence. It is already there. You say, Descartes is saying that I'm having a method of doubt. When he says, I'm having a method of doubt, I is already there. So why to prove again the I? So somehow there is a circular fallacy in Descartes' methodology. Well, I got this from Smriti's question. Honestly, I should admit. Number two, the inductive problem about which Descartes was much concerned, the same inductive problem again comes. I think, well, apart from the circularity, that is very, very nicely, I got, at least I'm convinced to myself. I don't know whether people got convinced with me or not. I see in Descartes, I think therefore I am, a clear circular fallacy, number one. Number two, the problem of induction that Descartes was thinking of, it is very much there in his method. The transition, you see, there is a leap again. When he says he takes the mind to be basic, I think, therefore I am, you think, therefore you are, everybody thinks, everybody exists. So the transition again, and that too, transition again to God. The transition, the leap from the finite to the infinite, always problematic. There is no gap to nothing can build the gap between the finite and the infinite. Nothing. But he moves, comfortably moves. So that is another problem. So the inductive problem still lays there. Because, well, the inductive method in science, it is confined to the finite. But his leap is something which is beyond imagination. He has confined, he has doubted everything, he has bracketed out everything, he has reduced everything to just his own thinking. Well, when he has done this, so that very idea of thinking, the very idea of doubting, how can that be possible without a psychophysical system? It is always already there. It is already there. And again, he is making a transition from that. He's thinking that it is, I have established a very certain proposition. I think, therefore I am. Well, it is a comfortable one, but still, the very idea of thinking has within its fold the very idea of existence. So this is how well I got this idea right now. I feel I may be wrong, I may be corrected, but Smriti's questions really has raised this issue in my mind, and I see a clear circular problem, a circular fallacy in Descartes' thinking, and the inductive problem is has become much more prominent in Descartes. Well, I should thank Smriti for this. Well, I don't know what Professor Das has to say on this. Well, I don't see any more questions. If Professor Das wants to reflect on this, welcome.
Yes, I shall say to both you and Smriti Rekha that by the empirical way we fail to establish, prove the existence of self. This is the problem. By any empirical method, by any inductive method, we fail to establish our existence. And we also ask that question, is it real? Do I really exist? Smriti is asking, do I really exist? She is existing, but she is asking the question, do I really? Who is eating?
No. She's asking from the standpoint of Descartes. She's asking from the standpoint of Descartes.
Yes, I understand. If Descartes is clearly understood, then this is said to. This is not. I am not talking to Smriti Rekha or you. This is the answer that I am giving. By any empirical approach, we fail to establish our existence, the existence of self. Number one, Descartes is trying to prove the existence of self by this method of doubt. Number two. Number third sentence is how I am doubting everything. This is very much empirical. I am doubting everything. A scientist can doubt everything. A philosopher can doubt everything. A layman can doubt everything. But doubting is not possible by a doubter. That means that doubter is the very self who is doubting. The doubter is not the other self. The doubter is not the society. The doubter is not God. The doubter is the very self who is doubting. So the existence of a self is not established by empirical science or empirical way of thinking, empirical way of experiencing. Descartes attempted to prove the existence of self. Forget about God, forget about the external world. We shall discuss in the next session. But in this very session, Descartes is very much successful in giving an answer to justify the existence of self, which is not possible by any empirical way of thinking, because they ask that question. They are doubtful about their own existence, but Descartes is not doubtful about his own existence. So at least it is certain that myself exists. This is the contribution of Descartes. Forget about other contributions. If I do not exist, then I don't have any experience. I don't have any science. I don't have any vision, no contribution. So for any possibility, for science, for physics, for metaphysics, for anything, first of all, I have to exist. So Descartes proved that at least it is true that I exist. This much. This is the greatest contribution. I exist. And in the same way, Descartes' philosophy is very much connected with Indian philosophy. The highest declaration in Indian philosophy that I exist, that I is the self, Jiva, and that I am also Brahman. I exist as a Jiva and I exist as Brahman. This is Indian context. Here Descartes says, I exist at least as a thinker. That thinker is analyzing, is asking, is doubting. Okay, that is the contribution. So we cannot ignore this contribution. This is my submission.
No, two things come here. Two things. Descartes is not talking of the self, the way we take self in the general sense. Descartes is talking of the thinking substance. Okay, the mind. He's talking of the when he says the thinking substance, he means the mind. Okay, the body cannot think. So from this, we should not confuse that he's proving the self. Okay, I think. Okay, therefore, when he says I, he says it is the thinking. Okay, when he says doubting, he's thinking. The thought is existing. I think, therefore, I am. As in, it doesn't. So there lies the confusion. Actually, a thinking mind that can be established. I think, therefore, I am. There is a thinking mind. Therefore, I can think. That also we can make a transition. That's the problem. I say. I think. Therefore, I should exist as a thinking substance. When I say thinking substance, it greatly refers to the mind actually. So when we talk of, we should not confuse it with the self that we generally take. So there lies again a problem. How do you see this?
No, I don't agree with that. That I myself is simply a mind. That I don't think that Descartes is saying that.
When he talks of the self, you see, when you talk of the self is taken differently actually. Even in the Western philosophical trends.
Descartes says that when Descartes is going to prove the existence of God, Descartes says that there is something the infinite in me. For that, no finite thing can be the cause of my existence. That infinite being is not mind. When Descartes is giving the causal argument for the existence of a God, Descartes is claiming two things. Every event must have a cause, and the cause must be more real than the effect. So, the something finite cannot be the cause of the infinite. Because I have the infinite element in me, therefore my parents cannot be the cause of my existence, the world cannot be the cause of my existence, my body and mind cannot be the cause of my existence. Because I am infinite, there must be an infinite cause. So Descartes believes the infinity in me, that infinite being can't be body and mind. So when we shall discuss about the causal argument of a God, there Descartes clearly says the cause must be greater than the effect, must be more real than the effect. So no finite thing can be the cause of my existence because I am infinite. That infinite being is not body and mind. So body and mind are physical. Body and mind is not myself. Myself is infinite. So for that infinite existence, there must be an infinite cause, and therefore God is the cause of my existence. So Descartes believes in the finite aspects of my existence, their body and mind, and also the infinite aspect of my existence. This is my submission.
But actually, the problem still remains. As you see, when he extends a proof, the ontological argument, what he says. He says that I carry in my mind the idea of a greatest conceivable being or the most perfect being. This idea, this transition, I carry in my mind the idea of the greatest conceivable being or the most perfect being. And this idea cannot correspond to anybody that is finite. So, this idea must correspond to something which is beyond the finite, and that's how he reaches at God in his ontological argument. So, again, you see the transition from the idea in the mind to something, a concretization sort of thing. Having an idea in the mind and giving it a concrete shape, that's problematic. He is not saying that as a self he is not talking. When he tries to prove God through his ontological argument, he says idea of the greatest conceivable being. He's not saying I am the self. I don't see that. In the ontological argument, he has clearly expressed, I carry an idea of the most perfect being, and that most idea of the most perfect being cannot be carried forward without existence. Therefore, perfection without existence is self-contradictory. Therefore, God should exist. So that is the pattern of his argument. So somehow, a lot of work.
No, sir. This is the second argument. This is the second argument. Another way of arguing the existence of God from the existence of innate ideas in our mind. Our mind can have innate ideas. So from that innate ideas, we can also prove the existence of God. This is another way of argument in favor of God's existence. But in causal argument, he says that cause must be more real than the effect. So I have the infinite aspect in my existence. For that, I should have. There must be an infinite source, infinite cause, and that cause is God. This is the way of. This is one form of his argument, and in another way, he is proving that there are three types of ideas in my mind. So one type of idea, that is adventitious idea, that is caused by the external world, the fictitious idea that is caused by mind. But there are also certain ideas in my mind, they are called innate ideas, which are self-evident. And from that ideas, we can prove the existence of God. So there should not be any confusion between causal argument and ontological argument. Ontological argument is another attempt to prove the existence of God from the very existence of innate ideas in our minds. But so far as the causal argument is concerned, God is accepted as the only cause of our existence because something infinite can be the cause of the finite. So you see, because I am speaking about Descartes, I am advocating Descartes, but Descartes has also some problems. When I shall speak about Spinoza, I shall clearly say the defects of Descartes. But now, because I am discussing about his methodology, I shall go with Descartes. I shall speak of the points where Descartes is very much convinced. How Descartes proved the existence of God, how Descartes proved existence of self. I shall speak that. And
no,
the methodology, as Descartes said.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, sir. Thank you. But where?
Because similarly, when we shall speak, we shall discuss Leibniz, both Descartes and Spinoza will be criticized. When we shall discuss about Locke, Berkeley, and Hume, entire rationalist philosophers will be criticized. Okay, so because we are discussing about Descartes, so there are some strong convictions that I told you that the very existence of self is proved by Descartes as a rationalist, which is not possible by any empirical way of experiencing. It is the greatest contribution. And the way Descartes proved, nobody could. Nobody. In every philosophy, we find assumptions about the existence of self and existence of a God. But Descartes has proved the existence of self by applying the mathematical and logical methodology very successfully. Therefore, he is called the father of European philosophy, modern philosophy, because he is accepting both physics and metaphysics. He is not ignoring metaphysical world, and at the same time, he is also not ignoring the metaphysical world. Immanuel Kant also did that. Therefore, Descartes and Immanuel Kant, they will be remembered in the history of philosophy. All other philosophers are one-sided. Bacon, Spinoza, Leibniz, Locke, Berkeley, Hume, they are one-sided. But Descartes and Kant, they have given justice to both physics and metaphysics. This is okay. Okay. Discussion will go this way. Thank you.
Yes, yes, Professor Das, thank you. But still, my discomfort lies here only from thought to thinking substance or mind. Well, that transition is okay. Thinking substance, well, I agree. But my discomfort area comes here, say, with attributing this to the self, the traditional way of using the self. If we make that somehow, I see a sort of problem. Well, this may carry on. Well, doubting to doubting.
No, there must be doubt about the existence of a God. I have also that doubt in Descartes philosophy, when Descartes says that God is the cause of my existence. But there should not be any doubt about the self, because self is the witness of all mental activities. So you have mental activities, you have differences of opinion, you have your choice, likes and dislikes. But who is witnessing that? Not
no, whether Descartes says so.
Yes, Descartes says that. Therefore, Descartes says that I am doubting deliberately. That means I am a being who is conscious of my doubting. So doubting is a mental phenomenon. Doubting is a mental activity. But the doubter is not the mind. The doubter is the self who is watching the doubting phenomena that occurs to mind. So doubting is mental, but the doubter is not mental. Doubter is the self who is witnessing the mental activities. Otherwise, it is impossible. Otherwise, we can't synthesize all ideas. Otherwise, we cannot make a judgment. Who is synthesizing subject with the predicates? That grass, green, they are separate. Who is making that judgment? That grass is green. So there must be a self who is witnessing the series of thoughts, its contradictions, its justification. Everything is judged by a self. Otherwise, it is impossible. We shall only flow on the discrete ideas without any synthesis. So synthesis is possible by a self. Analysis is possible by mind. But synthesis is not possible by a analytical mind. So there must be something who is watching both the bodily and mentally activities. So I am happy that being a Western philosopher, Descartes has such type of a belief that the self exists. Not
Okay.
only self exists, he also says God exists. Because he is thinking about God, so it is very natural he is speaking about the self.
So here again, well said. Descartes is it is 8:20 anyway. Anyway, well, this discussion will go on. Well, two things then come in. Then so when you say for Descartes, well, thinking substance is the self, and you also attribute that this self is the witness. So that's the comfortable part, and it is the witness of both the bodily and the mental connectivity. Well, that part is accepted. But then again, so the transition again from the self to um, that infinite self that somehow again has an inductive leap, and that speaks of certain deficiencies in Descartes which would take in the later classes. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Well, I
Thank
don't
you, thank
see
you.
any more questions in the chat box. Well, it was a comfortable session. Many things came to the fore, and the questions by Smriti are really interesting, and it has really ignited certain things in my mind to think fresh on Descartes. And thanks for the young scholar for raising such good question. Well, she's not there anywhere. She's not no more connected with us now, I think. Well, she's back. Well, thank you, Smriti, for your questions, and really it has ignited the speaker and everybody around to think on the questions. Thank you very much. So now I move to Srimati Swarnalata Tripathi Madam to propose a formal vote of thanks. Over to Swarna Madam.
Namaskar to all respected participants. I thank all the participants for their presence and responses in this webinar discussion. We are grateful to Pramod sir for delivering a beautiful talk on doubt and certainty. Rational doubt is not psychological doubt, it is logical doubt which leads to certainty. It is conscious doubt which leads to perfection. It is the methodical doubt which opens the doors of all clarity. We thank Pramod sir for his clear vision of doubt and certainty. I thank Dr. Rao sir for his silent and active support in making this program successful. He beautifully moderates this session with interest and dedication. His concluding remark is very clear and pinpointed. Thank you all. We shall meet again tomorrow evening with Philosophy Family. Thank you, Pranam.
I also thank you, Madam, for your involvement in conducting this second series on Western philosophy. Thank you very much. I should thank one and all involved in this platform for making this webinar so good, so nice. So, extending thanks to everybody, I declare this meeting closed. I should also thank the speaker for being so concerned about this series, about his talk and everything. So with this, I declare this meeting closed.